Good morning, everyone. I am Jerry A. Pariscal, a third-year student currently enrolled in Negros Oriental State University from the Department of Teacher Education, major in Mathematics. Today, I will be summarizing the topics which our best and hardworking instructor, Dr. Craig Refugio, discussed to us through his YouTube channel. Now, I will begin the presentation. First is types of assessment. So we have diagnostic assessment or pre-assessment. So diagnostic assessment assesses a student's strengths, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills prior to instruction. So it is a baseline to work from which is done at the beginning of the school year, beginning of a unit, and beginning of a lesson. Next one is the formative assessment. So formative assessment assesses a student's performance during the instruction and usually occurs regularly throughout the instruction process. So that is the formative assessment. Lastly, the summative assessment. Summative assessment measures the student's achievement at the end of instruction. It's like talking to someone about a movie after the movie is over. By using measurements of student performance, summative assessment can be useful for teachers to improve units and lessons year over year because they are, in a way, as much of a reflection on the quality of units and lessons themselves as they are the students. So, next topic is the cognitive domain. So, the cognitive domain involves knowledge and development of intellectual skills. So this includes recall or recognition of specific facts, procedural patterns, and concepts that serve in development of intellectual abilities and skills. There are six major categories which are listed in order below, starting from the simplest behavior to the most complex. So the categories can be thought of as degrees of difficulties. That is, the first one must be mastered before the next one can take place. So we also have the Bloom's revised taxonomy. Because of Lauren Anderson, a former student of Bloom, revisited the cognitive domain in the learning taxonomy in the mid-90s and made some changes, with perhaps the two most prominent ones being: so one, changing the names in the six categories from noun to verb forms, and two is slightly rearranging them. So we have the next topic, the portfolio. So a student portfolio is a compilation of academic work and other forms of educational evidence assembled for the purpose of, number one, evaluating coursework quality, learning progress, and academic achievement. Also, determining whether students have met learning standards or other academic requirements for courses, grade level promotion, and graduation. But it also helps students reflect on their academic goals and progress as learners, and create a lasting archive of academic work products, accomplishments, and other documentations. So advocates of student portfolios argue that compiling, reviewing, and evaluating student work over time can provide a richer, deeper, and more accurate picture of what students have learned and are able to do than more traditional measures such as standardized tests, quizzes, or final exams that only measure what students know at a specific point in time. So our next topic is the performance assessment. So what is the performance assessment? A performance assessment involves applying and showing skills and knowledge through various performance tasks. The purpose of a performance assessment is to improve the student learning experience and evaluate the effectiveness of lesson plans. So these assessments measure how well a student can apply the knowledge they've learned, not if they can recall the knowledge. So assessments are a useful tool for evaluating a student's understanding of a subject and if they're able to apply their knowledge in specific situations. So educators use performance assessments often to identify the best methods for teaching students and assisting them throughout their learning process in a course. So in this we can have performance assessments and why educators use them, how to use them effectively, and give helpful tips in having performance assessments. Now we have summative assessment. So summative assessments are used to evaluate student learning, skill acquisition, and academic achievement at the conclusion of a defined structural period. So typically at the end of a project, unit, course, or semester, program, or school year, generally speaking, summative assessments are defined by three major criteria. So first, the test, assignments, or projects are used to determine whether students have learned what they were expected to learn. So in other words, what makes an assessment summative is not the design of the test, assignment, or self-evaluation per se, but the way it is used. Example, to determine whether and to what degree students have learned the material they have been taught. So that's the first. So second, summative assessment are given at the conclusion of a specific instructional period. So therefore, they are generally evaluative rather than diagnostic. So they are more appropriately used to determine learning progress and achievement, evaluate the effectiveness of educational programs, measures progress towards improvement goals, or make course placement decisions, among other possible applications. So that's the second criteria. So the third criteria is summative assessment results are often recorded as scores or grades that are then factored into a student's permanent academic record. So whether they end up as letter grades on a report card or test scores used in the college admissions process, well, summative assessments are typically a major component of grading process in most districts. So schools and courses, not all assessments considered to be summative are graded. Now we have the grading and reporting. So, the grading system. The grading system is a system that a school has developed to guide how teachers assess and grade student work. So that's the grading system. And the reporting system is a system that a school has developed for the organization of assignment scores in grade books, either online or paper, and the determination of final grades for report cards and transcripts. So that is grading and reporting. The next is holistic and analytic scoring rubric. So holistic rubrics. It is a single criterion rubrics or one-dimensional used to assess participants' overall achievement on an activity or item based on predefined achievement levels. So holistic rubrics may use a percentage or text scoring only. And analytic rubrics is a two-dimensional rubrics with levels of achievement as columns and assessment criteria as rows. So allows you to assess participants' achievements based on multiple criteria using a single rubric. So you can assign different weights value to different criteria and include an overall achievement by totaling the criteria. So with analytic rubrics, levels of achievement display in columns and your assessment criteria display in rows. So analytic rubrics may use a points, custom points, or text-only scoring method. Points and custom points analytic rubrics may use both text and points to assess performance. With custom points, each criterion may be worth a different number of points. So for both points and custom points, an overall score is provided based on the total number of points achieved. So the overall score determines if learners meet the criteria determined by instructors. So you can manually override the total and the overall score of the rubric. Next is the student self-assessment. So student self-assessment occurs when learners assess their own performance. With practice, they learn to objectively reflect on and critically evaluate their own progress and skill development. They can also identify gaps in their understanding and capabilities. Also, they can discern how to improve their performance, their performance. Learn independently and think critically, and use self-assessment to develop the learning skills students will need for professional competence and to make them aware of and more responsible for their own learning processes. So sometimes teachers use self-assessment and peer assessment together. For example, they might require students to use a rubric to provide critique on the work of their peers and then to apply the same criteria to their own work. So some argues that students must learn to peer assess if they are to self-assess effectively. So that is the self-assessment. So there is skilled self-assessment also that can be as reliable as the forms of assessment. But you must provide students with training and practice if you want results to closely align with other assessors' results. So lastly is the categories of test items. So test items, there are several common kinds of test items. For objective tests, students answer multiple choice questions, matching items, and fill in the blank items. The other kind of test items are short answer responses and essays. So we have multiple choice test items. So multiple choice test items, these test items offer several answer choices. So the test prompt or question is known as the stem, for which you choose one or more of the answer options. You can have one or many. Matching test items is kind of test item that features two columns, a numbered column and a lettered column. So students are asked to match the correct answer with the correct stem. So from the left to the right. Next is the fill in the blanks test items. So these are test items which you must fill in a word or words in the sentence or the statement. While short answer test items is a type of test item that usually involves a short answer of approximately 5 to 7 sentences. So typically, short answer items will address only one topic and require only one task. So it's like an essay, but essay items is different. So we have essay test items is a type of test item that usually multi-part prompt requiring several paragraphs or pages to answer. So you can make use of writing formulas, for example, how to write a basic 5-paragraph essay suitable for most classes. However, for writing classes, the task will be expanded as per the type of writing class and the level of writing sophistication is required. So that is all that is the summary of of the ED305 topics that I have learned. Thank you.